It started with silence. Not the kind that fills a room naturally like the hush of night or the pause before music. This was the brittle kind, tense, deliberate, almost strategic. Anna had a way of making silence say more than words ever could. For the last few weeks, she wielded it like a blade. We used to fill our evenings with conversation, talking about articles we read, coworkers we didn't like, the kind of meaningless chatter that somehow becomes the foundation of everything. But lately, those moments had thinned, dried out like leaves in November. She said she was tired. Long days at the office, new personal training goals. "I need time for me, James," she told me one evening, dropping her gym bag by the door without meeting my eyes. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. We'd been married for 6 years, and I still remembered how my hands shook the first time I held hers, how her voice could settle the worst of my storms. I believed in us more than I believed in anything else in this world. But lately, belief had started to feel like denial. Something was off, and I knew it in my gut. I didn't want to be that husband, the one who snoops, who questions every minute she's gone, but doubt is a parasite. It doesn't scream, it whispers until even silence sounds like betrayal. It was her gym routine that changed first. She used to go early in the morning, headphones in, podcast on. Then all of a sudden it was evening sessions, late ones. "Fewer people," she said. "I like having space." I nodded, pretending I didn't notice how she came home freshly showered. Her scent changed from the one I used to know. There was perfume now, faint but there, and it wasn't for me. Margaret, her mother, dropped a comment one Sunday when Anna had left early for a hot yoga class. She said Anna had been distant lately. "Are you two okay?" she asked gently over tea. I brushed it off, but I saw the concern in her eyes. Margaret had always adored me, sometimes more openly than her own daughter did. Maybe because I reminded her of the kind of man who sticks around when things get hard. Maybe because she saw something unraveling long before I did. The night it happened, I was home alone again. The house felt sterile, too clean, too quiet. Her absence had become normal. I walked into the bathroom to brush my teeth and glanced at the smart mirror she had insisted on buying last Christmas. "It syncs with everything," she'd said with a grin, tapping on the interface like a child showing off a toy. I hadn't touched it in months, but now something pulled me toward it. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way her voice, earlier that evening, had sounded too light when she said, "I'll be late, leg day's brutal." I tapped the screen. Our devices were still synced. She hadn't unlinked her smartwatch from the house system. I hesitated. I could almost hear her scolding me in my head. "What happened to trust, James?" But trust wasn't supposed to make you feel this hollow. I opened her fitness dashboard. Her location was marked at the gym, sure, but her heart rate had been flat for the past hour. No motion. No calorie burn. Not even a cool-down period. Just a line. Flat, steady, unmoving. My hands tightened on the edge of the sink. I could have let it go. Maybe she was just resting. Maybe she'd forgotten to turn off her tracker. But then a notification came in, one of those automatic sync uploads to the shared cloud. It was a photo. A mirror selfie. She looked stunning, sweaty hair pulled into a messy bun, that sports bra she wore when she wanted to feel extra motivated. The caption read, "Still grinding." But I knew that mirror. That wasn't her gym. That was a different place. The lighting was warmer. The background too pristine. There were no dumbbells, no posters of no pain, no gain. Just cream-colored walls, a sleek chair in the corner, and a tall mirror. And something else. A reflection. A sliver of bare skin and a masculine figure out of frame. It was blurry but unmistakable. He was there. I stared at the photo until my eyes stung. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. I felt suspended. Like my life had paused and someone else was living in the space I used to occupy. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stood there watching a lie dressed up in sweat and emojis. Then something broke in me, not loudly but decisively. I wouldn't confront her with words. Not yet. Not directly. She was too good at flipping things, at making me feel like the villain for even suspecting. But if she wanted to lie through screens and reflections, then that's how I'd answer. I downloaded the photo. Pulled up the chat thread where she'd sent it to her group of friends. They were all eating it up, queen and body goals. I copied the entire conversation thread, including the selfie, and began setting up the smart mirror. Full display mode. No interface. Just a slideshow of her own curated fiction. She always showered the moment she got home. Said it helped her reset. Tonight would be no different. Only this time, when she stepped out of the steam and wiped the mirror with her hand, she wouldn't see herself. She'd see her lie staring right back. The mirror took a few minutes to finish syncing with the house server, long enough for me to stare at my own reflection and wonder what kind of man I had become. I had always prided myself on being calm, reasonable, the kind of husband who didn't raise his voice, who listened even when it hurt. But standing there, watching that screen flicker to life, I realized there was a part of me I had ignored for too long, the part that had been wounded over and over by silence, by excuses, by late nights and gym bags and the faint scent of someone else's cologne clinging to the fibers of her sports top. I didn't want revenge. Not in the way people talk about it. I wasn't here to break her. I was here to let the truth speak louder than anything I could say. And if she had turned our love into a performance, then it was only fitting the mirror would be her stage. I uploaded the selfie first, then the chat conversation with her friends. I added the timestamp from her smartwatch's inactivity log, synced it to appear as an overlay on the image, and cued the whole thing to loop. It was precise, clean, silent. She would step out of the shower expecting steam and glass and instead meet her own betrayal staring back at her. I sat on the edge of her bed and waited. The apartment was dark except for the hallway light. I could hear the hum of the washer running in the background, the faintest trace of her perfume still lingering in the air like a ghost. She came through the door at 10:37 p.m. Keys dropped on the console table. A yawn. Long day, she called out casually, like I hadn't been sitting here for hours, like everything wasn't unraveling thread by thread. I didn't answer. I didn't trust my voice to sound neutral. I heard her kick off her sneakers, unzip her gym bag, move toward the bedroom. "You still awake?" she asked through the door. I said nothing. Just leaned back against the headboard and stared at the ceiling like it held the answers I couldn't speak aloud. She didn't press. She never did when she thought she'd gotten away with something. The sound of the bathroom door closing was sharp. Water turned on. I imagined her peeling off those carefully chosen clothes, the ones meant to sell the lie. She always showered quickly, 5, maybe 10 minutes. Enough time to wash away sweat or guilt, or maybe just to practice the next story. I stared at the closed door and waited. When it opened again, I didn't look up. I heard the towel shift around her shoulders, the soft thud of her bare feet crossing tile. And then silence. No gasp. No scream. Just stillness. A beat of time so quiet it felt deafening. I finally looked toward the bathroom. She was standing in front of the mirror, one hand still holding the towel to her chest, the other hovering in the air like it had forgotten what it was meant to do. Her face was unreadable, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the way her lips parted ever so slightly. She was looking at herself. At her lie. At the version of reality she had tried to control, now stripped bare by the very tools she used to deceive. The selfie was there. Then the timestamp. Then the chat. Then her friends' reactions. It all cycled back, looping endlessly. Her breath caught. I saw her shoulders rise, just slightly. "James," she said, finally. Just my name. No excuse. No denial. Just that one word. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She turned, eyes wide now, desperation creeping into her voice. "James, it's not what it looks like." That line. That tired, broken line. I stood up, slow, deliberate, my body aching in ways that had nothing to do with muscles. I walked past her, pausing only to glance at the mirror again. It played her lie like a silent confession. "Then what is it, Anna?" I asked, my voice low, tired. "Tell me what part of this isn't exactly what it looks like." She didn't answer. She wrapped the towel tighter as if it could shield her from the reality now crashing down around her. I stepped into the bedroom, grabbed a hoodie from the chair, and pulled it over my head. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in that room. Not now. Not until I figured out what I was supposed to do with the wreckage she'd left in her wake. As I reached for the door, I heard her call after me. "James, wait. Please. I can explain." But I was already walking. Through the hall. Past the photos on the wall that suddenly felt like props in a stranger's life. Out into the night that felt colder than it should have. I didn't know if I'd ever come back. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure I wanted to. I walked without a destination, just forward. My shoes scraped against the sidewalk, not in rhythm but in defiance, as if each step was an argument against turning around. The streets were mostly empty, a few windows flickering with late-night TV, the occasional sound of a car door slamming or laughter spilling out of a bar. It all felt distant, like I was watching someone else's world continue while mine had stalled. I ended up at the old park on Holloway Street, the one where Anna and I used to walk when we were still figuring each other out. Back then, we'd talk about dreams as if we could will them into existence just by naming them. Back then, every future still seemed possible. I sat on the bench under the lamp that always flickered like it couldn't decide whether to give light or give up. I pulled my phone from my pocket, not sure what I was looking for. Maybe some old message from her that I could reread and pretend it was still true. Maybe nothing at all. The screen lit up with missed calls. From Anna. One from Margaret. That one made me pause. I hesitated, then tapped to listen to the voicemail. Her voice was soft, worried. James, honey. I'm sorry if I'm overstepping, but something's not right with her. I know she's my daughter, but I see things. I've seen them for months now. Just, please don't shut down. You've always been good at holding it in, but sometimes the people who seem strongest are the ones in the most pain. Call me when you can. I closed my eyes. Margaret had always seen me even when Anna didn't. She was the one who told Anna not to let me go when we fought during that awful winter 2 years ago, when Anna almost moved out over something so small I can't even remember what it was now. Margaret believed in us. Maybe more than Anna ever did. I called her back. She answered on the second ring, breathless. James? Yeah, I said quietly. I'm okay. I'm just out. I needed to breathe. I figured, she said. She called me. Said something about a mistake. About losing you. I didn't press. I'm not here to take sides, you know that. But you don't sound okay. I swallowed hard. I don't know what I am. It's like I've been living next to her, not with her. Like she's been planning an escape I didn't know we needed. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, is there someone else? Yeah, I said. I think so. No, I know so. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice shaking. If I'd known, it's not on you, I interrupted. You were always good to me. You were more honest with me than she's been lately. Do you want to come here? She asked gently. The guest room's made up. I can leave you alone or make tea, whatever you need. I thought about it. About sitting at her kitchen table while she fussed over me, trying to fix something that wasn't hers to fix. Not yet, I said. But thank you. Really. I hung up before I changed my mind and sat there for another hour, letting the cold air numb me into a kind of stillness. When I finally walked home, the apartment was quiet. No lights. Just the faint hum of the smart mirror still running in the bathroom. I turned it off before it could say more than I was ready to hear again. Anna was in bed, turned away from me, her body curled tight like she could fold herself small enough to disappear. I didn't speak. I just stood in the doorway for a while, trying to remember the last time I touched her without feeling distance clinging to my fingertips. Eventually, I lay down beside her. We didn't touch. We didn't speak. But I could feel her breathing, ragged and shallow. She was awake. So was I. Morning came too fast, bright and unkind. I went through the motions. Showered, dressed, made coffee I didn't drink. She sat across from me at the table, her eyes rimmed with red. James, she said, barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I looked up slowly. For what? She flinched. For all of it. For lying. For hurting you. For being a coward. Then tell me the truth now, I said. Not part of it. Not some sanitized version. All of it. She looked down at her hands. His name is Ethan. He's a client. Was. It started a few months ago. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was just lonely. You were working late. We were barely speaking. I felt invisible. That word, invisible, hit harder than I expected. Because it was true. We had both stopped seeing each other. But that didn't justify this. So you replaced me, I said. No, she said quickly. It wasn't like that. You showered with him, I said. You staged fake gym selfies. You laughed with your friends about how hot you looked, all while I was sitting at home, wondering what I'd done wrong. I know, she whispered. I was stupid. I thought if I could just compartmentalize it, it wouldn't be real. But it became real. And then I was too deep to stop. I stared at her. The woman I had loved for years now looked like a stranger wearing her face. And what now? I asked. You confess and everything's okay? No, she said, eyes full. I don't expect that. I just want to be honest now. I want to fix it. I laughed. It wasn't cruel. Just empty. You can't fix a mirror after you throw a rock through it, Anna. All you can do is clean up the shards and try not to bleed. She didn't try to touch me. Maybe she knew it would have felt wrong, or maybe she just didn't have the right to anymore. The silence between us sat heavier than ever. Every clock tick, every hum of the refrigerator, every faint car passing by outside just made the distance louder. I watched her try to gather words, watched her lips twitch like she was building a sentence she couldn't finish. I'd seen her struggle with apologies before, small ones, but never like this. I wondered how many times she had rehearsed it in her head, how to say sorry for turning love into a lie. I kept telling myself it was temporary, she finally said. That it was just a distraction. That I'd come back to us when I felt less empty. And did it work? I asked, not looking at her. Did he fill the hole? She blinked. No, not really. He just made me forget about it for a while. I stood up and walked to the window. The city outside was waking up, slowly and stubbornly, like it didn't want to face the day either. I crossed my arms and leaned against the cold glass, trying to find some anchor in the shifting fog of my thoughts. You know what hurts the most? I said without turning. It's not the sex. It's not even the lies. It's the ease. The ease with which you built a life beside mine and didn't tell me. Like you could breathe through both versions of yourself without choking. James, please, don't. I cut her off. Don't say my name like that. Not like it's a lifeline. You let go of me a long time ago. You just didn't have the courage to tell me until I forced you to look in the mirror. She was crying now. I could hear it even if I didn't see it. The breath breaks. The tiny, stifled sobs she was trying to keep inside. I wanted to feel pity. I wanted to reach for some part of myself that still cared enough to comfort her. But all I felt was a deep, quiet vacancy. As if my soul had packed its bags and left a note behind that read, "This isn't love anymore." I told Ethan it was over, she said. Last night. Before I came home. He was the one in that mirror. That reflection. He knew I was leaving him. I turned around slowly. Not because you chose me. Because you got caught. She flinched. I didn't plan it this way. That's the problem. You didn't plan anything. You drifted. You lied. You hid behind busy schedules and gym bags and motivational quotes. And I let it happen. I let myself become a placeholder for a version of you that didn't exist anymore. She stood, clutching the edge of the kitchen counter like she might fall. What do I do now? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I had once called my best friend, the woman I'd married under oak trees in Margaret's backyard while our friends cried and cheered. She was still beautiful. Still the same in body but not in soul. And maybe I wasn't either. You give me space, I said. You don't call. You don't text. You don't send letters or playlists or sad photos. You let me decide if there's anything worth salvaging. You let me figure out who I am when I'm not busy trying to be enough for someone who lied to my face. She nodded slowly, lips trembling. Okay. I walked past her, opened the closet, grabbed a duffel bag. A few shirts, jeans, chargers. My toothbrush. I didn't take everything. I didn't know if I was leaving for a week or forever. All I knew was that I couldn't heal in the same space where she had poisoned us. As I zipped the bag, I saw a photo of us on the dresser. From the early years. We were laughing in the rain, soaked to the bone. Her mascara running, my collar stained, but we looked happy. Really happy. I left it there. Let her see it every day and wonder how something so good could end so small. I texted Margaret from the sidewalk. Told her I was coming. When she opened the door 20 minutes later, she didn't say anything. Just pulled me into a hug that didn't ask for explanations. She'd already guessed enough. I stayed with her for a few days. Tried to find rhythm in routine. Coffee. Walks. Late-night conversations that barely touched the edges of what I was really feeling. Margaret didn't push. She let me exist in my own time. On the fourth evening, she handed me a letter. She dropped this off, she said. Didn't ask me to give it to you. Just said she needed to leave it somewhere real. I stared at the envelope. Plain. No perfume. No lipstick mark. Just my name written in a shaky hand. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the windowsill until midnight when the world felt still enough for ghosts. I unfolded the paper slowly. Her handwriting was raw. Crooked in places. Words scratched out and rewritten like she'd bled each sentence. She talked about the beginning. About our road trips, about the first time she saw me cry during a movie and knew I was the kind of man who'd never hurt her. About how that made it worse. Hurting someone who never would have hurt her first. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't beg. She just said thank you. For loving her when she didn't love herself. For staying long enough to make it hard to leave. For showing her what it meant to be chosen even when she no longer deserved it. I folded the letter back up and sat in silence for a long time. Then I looked at myself in the mirror across the room. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't see a broken man. I saw someone waking up. Someone who had been asleep in someone else's dream and was finally remembering how to live again. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of restlessness, but because I was afraid if I closed my eyes, I'd fall back into the version of life I had just escaped. The letter sat on the windowsill beside me, its weight heavier than the paper it was printed on. Words have a way of echoing longer than voices. I kept hearing her apology not because it was comforting, but because it felt like a reminder of all the things she could have said when it mattered, before the lies, before the mirror, before the silence between us became permanent. Margaret found me in the morning sitting at her dining table, hands wrapped around a cold mug of untouched tea. She didn't ask questions. She just poured another cup, sat across from me, and started talking about nothing in particular. The garden, her neighbor's ridiculous dog, the news. I was grateful for it. For the reminder that life continued even if mine had been split in half. I spent 3 more days there. Enough time to realize I had been functioning for years, not living. Enough time to see that comfort isn't the same as happiness and that forgiveness, if it ever came, would take longer than either of us deserved. On the last morning, I packed my bag again. Margaret walked me to the front door and hugged me for a little too long, the kind of hug that tries to seal the cracks. She slipped a small bag of snacks into my backpack like I was her child going off to school. I smiled for the first time in days. "You're stronger than you think," she said. "Just remember that." I drove for a while after leaving. No GPS. No destination. Just miles. I stopped in a small coastal town 4 hours away. The kind of place with creaky docks, salty air, and no one who knew my name. I found a short-term rental above a bookstore and paid for 2 weeks up front. When I unpacked, I found the letter again. I almost threw it away. Instead, I folded it into the back of my journal and left it there, unfinished business tucked where it couldn't scream. Every evening, I walked the shoreline and watched the tide come in. There's something about the ocean that makes your problems feel appropriately small. I didn't think about Anna most of the time. I thought about myself. About the man I used to be. About the ways I bent and reshaped myself to keep a marriage from shattering, not realizing it had already cracked beneath me. I wrote. I slept. I talked to strangers who knew nothing about betrayal, who just saw a quiet man with tired eyes. One afternoon, 2 weeks after I'd left, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Ethan. His voice was calm. Too calm. "James," he said, "I don't know if this matters to you, but I didn't know you. I didn't even know she was married at first. And when I did find out, I ended it. I'm not calling to ask forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I wasn't trying to take something that belonged to you. I hope you find peace." I didn't return the call. Not because I hated him, but because I didn't care enough to hate him. The version of me that would have punched him once upon a time was gone, replaced by someone too tired to throw fists at shadows. The truth is, he wasn't the problem. Anna was. And maybe deep down I was too. I let too many things slide. I called silence patience. I called her distance independence. I gave and gave, thinking love was supposed to feel like sacrifice. It's not. Love shouldn't drain you. It shouldn't make you second-guess your own reflection. And if the person you love can lie to your face while smiling, they don't love you back. One night, as the waves crashed just below the balcony, I wrote her a message I never sent. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't pleading. It just said, "I hope you learn to be honest with the next person. And more importantly, I hope you learn to be honest with yourself." I deleted it before I could hit send. Some things don't need to be heard. Some truths are just for us. A month passed. I returned to the city, but not to the apartment. I found a new place. Smaller, quieter, mine. I painted the walls myself, bought cheap furniture that didn't match, let my life become unfamiliar in ways that were finally mine to shape. Margaret came by once with a housewarming plan. We didn't mention her daughter. Just shared a bottle of wine and laughed about nothing. The laughter was different now. Lighter. Like my lungs had more room. I don't know if Anna still checks the mirror. I don't know if she still goes to the gym or if she ever really liked it in the first place. I don't think about her every day anymore. And when I do, it's not with anger. It's with a quiet sadness for the version of us that never had the courage to confront the truth. I'm healing. Slowly. On my own terms. And maybe that's what matters most. If you're watching this, maybe you've been lied to. Maybe you've stared at someone and wondered when they became a stranger. Maybe you've doubted yourself because someone else made you feel like you were too much or not enough. Let me tell you this, you are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not broken because someone else failed to love you honestly. And if you're standing in front of your own metaphorical mirror wondering how it all went so wrong, know that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away without setting the whole place on fire. You don't need revenge. You need peace. And peace starts with truth. If you've made it this far, thank you. If this story felt like yours, leave a comment below. And if you're rebuilding like I am, subscribe. Because sometimes healing begins when we say it out loud, and sometimes when we finally let someone else see behind the mirror.